Hi friends, in Planet Earth Dating, it's Friday, April 12th, 2019. The reason we say Planet Earth Dating is because there are presences in many dimensions who are listening to this broadcast as they have been for several years now. They listen to it because they can get information about what's happening on Earth through a consistent source of information, through a consistent observatory is how they often call it.
That's true.
And what we're doing is opening a portal and holding it open so that all the godly presences who are affiliated with planet Earth and many, many, many angels who are also affiliated with planet Earth can reach through and attempt to get humanity to change, because this is not humanity's planet. This is God's planet, and humans are destroying all other life on Earth. We're more than halfway through murdering all other life on Earth, and that's not okay. And so all the higher powers are working together as a team to attempt to get through to humanity. We've accumulated questions from viewers, and it's this question and answer format that we used the last time we filmed, and we're going to continue roughly the same format.
That's true.
And our hope is that we get through all the questions because they're coming in faster than we've been able to respond to them.
That's true.
But we'll get as far as we can.
And where are the answers to those questions coming from?
We'll be channeling in from that gathering of godly presences and angels who are affiliated with planet Earth. We've got a portal open to a space, we sometimes call them rooms, the space up above the astral dimensions, up above where the clouds of dead people hang out.
That's true.
They're the places where the godly presences operate.
That's
and
true.
We've got a portal opened up to there, which takes a lot of training, and kids, don't try this at home because you could really hurt yourself by opening yourself up to dark presences.
That's true.
So don't try it until you've had the training. And we don't know of anybody teaching the training right now, so don't try it. Not that we know of. Don't try it, please.
The first question comes from a viewer named Brendan. And Brendan asks, what is the afterlife like? Will we get to stay as long as we like to once we reach God? What happens when we reach God?
One of those godly presences is poking at what we have learned in our practice as a life between lives hypnosis facilitator.
That's true.
Which is a technique that we've practiced for, I don't know, 10 or 15 years, something like that. More than 10 years. Probably more than 15 years, might be 17 years.
Yeah, that's true.
And what we've learned is that there's a lot of change happening in the astral dimensions, and that the astral dimensions, which are composed of dead people, clouds of dead people, have gotten jam-packed. There's a backup at the gates, so to speak, and that because the backup clogs the energy, there's no longer the lift that used to exist, that used to just kind of carry people up. We used to be able to say, okay, find the current and ride the current. Which way is the current pulling you? And for the last many years there has not been current, and that's a problem. So what is the afterlife like? We're going to have to separate these questions.
That's true.
Because the afterlife is that which happens after a body dies.
That's true.
And what seems to be happening now is that the soul is just kind of rolling out of the body and flopping there and is not going up at all.
That's true.
And often they've died in a hospital under heavy medication.
That's
and they're
true.
extremely confused and have no idea that they're dead. They know they feel weird.
Yeah, weird.
And sometimes a little cold and shaky.
That's true.
And they really, really, really want to not feel that way anymore, and so they wander around, and then they will fall into other lives.
That's true.
Often when the lives are sleeping.
That's true.
And then now there's lots of different ways of talking about what just happened.
Yeah, that's true.
But there's a different soul in that life now, and maybe there's lots of souls in that life. Sometimes they're like these hotel lives where they've got a bunch of dead people living out of them.
That's true.
And sometimes the dead people are an improvement over the previous situation.
That's true.
But often they're not an improvement.
That's true.
And from the perspective of the dead person, it just seems to them like they've started a new life.
Yes. I feel different than I felt before.
Yes. So it's hard to know, how do we characterize that? Do we characterize that as the afterlife? It is what happened after that other life died, is the soul rolled out of the life and then got sucked into another life, and now they're living another life somewhere. That's one thing that can happen.
That's true.
Another thing that can happen is that the soul will some way, somehow make it up to the very lowest layer of the astral dimensions.
That's true.
Which looks kind of like a fantasy zone where people are just pretending. Often they're pretending that they aren't dead.
That's
and
true.
that guy who they always wanted to date but who never had time for them has now miraculously said yes.
Yes.
And now they're happily married to that guy and living on Siesta Key.
In a really nice house.
Or Tahiti. Yes, in a really nice house. And everything is just peachy keen.
Yeah.
And all that's happening is the soul is having a fantasy.
There you go. Sneezing is a common physical symptom of energy shifting, so someone probably just started listening upstairs who wasn't listening before.
It's a fantasy zone. That entire dimension is a fantasy zone. And there are other fantasy zones also in the astral dimensions that are just fantasy worlds that don't exist. They aren't real. And the souls who are there are very convinced that they are alive and living. And it really makes us consider, or gives us the opportunity to consider, maybe it's exactly the same right here in this dimension also.
That's
maybe
true.
we're all dead because we watch them be very, very, very certain that they are fully alive, just like we would be certain we're fully alive. And they are of the same density as that dimension. So when they hit a chair up there,
their hand doesn't go through.
No, their hands don't go through because they're of the same dimension. They're of the same density. But from here we can see the soles of their feet, so obviously they're floating in here. And we can see dead presences beneath us also if we look into the depths. Not really looking into the depths, that's poorly spoken. We look up and ask the godly presences to show us, what's it like in the depths? What's it like to be a cell, for example?
That's true.
We see the same kinds of things. We see presences who are quite clearly dead.
That's true.
Who don't seem to know they're dead. And yet this dimension is sandwiched in between. So we think that one way to answer this important question would be that it's not all that different actually. Dead people don't seem to be able to tell that they're dead in many cases. It's just not very different at all. But we can tell you what it's supposed to be like.
That's a really good question.
And what it's supposed to be like is a place where we meet our guardian angels, and our guardian angels help us become better people.
That's true.
They work with us about the details of the life just ended and help us see places where we were selfish or lazy or stingy or mean. Some people are just straight up mean.
That's true.
Etc. They help us see where we have not been our best selves and where the opportunities were to do better. And they help us come around the corner in our thinking so that we want to do better.
That's true.
That's what's supposed to happen. And if we're willing to just keep going up higher and higher and higher and higher, so much farther than we think it is. Eventually, we'll come up out the top of all of those dimensions of fantasy. And as a Life Between Lives facilitator, we know this to be true, that everybody, all the clients want to think that they can just go one level up, bloop, and they'll be in heaven.
Yes.
And that's not it. If they go one level up, bloop, they're where the fakers have set up their false pretense of a check-in. And
that's true.
They're just playing right into the hands of presences who are pretending to be divine presences.
That's
and
true.
Friends, if they're going to lie about that to you, I think we can take as our working theory they're going to lie about other things also.
That's true.
So the crucial point, and to Brendan, is that the person's name, the questioner? Brendan. To Brendan, we would say, keep going up. There's always a way. You can always find a stairway or an elevator or a
trapdoor.
Something. Trapdoor. There's always a way up. Keep going higher and higher and higher and higher. And remember this. You can decide to remember this, and you can remember this.
That's true.
And you just keep going higher. And eventually you'll break out into a place where it doesn't smell the same.
That's true.
And the information is much less convenient.
More challenging.
Far more challenging. And they're saying, look, you really didn't handle these things very well. You really need to step it up. You can do better.
You said you were going to do all these things.
Is this your signature? This is how it always starts when we get to the actual real conversation. Is this your signature? And if it isn't your signature, say, no, that's not mine.
And then assume that you haven't gone high enough.
And assume you haven't gone high enough and keep going.
Whoosh.
Excellent point. But when it's your signature, and you say, yeah,
that's mine.
That is my signature. And often there will be this sensation of, oh, is this something I should have remembered?
Yeah.
It's like a deja vu feeling. It's,
this seems oddly familiar.
Oddly familiar, but I don't know why. I don't remember it. And then they'll start going through the details of your soul plan. Did you do this? And usually the answer will be, no. And did you do that? And usually the answer is, no. And did you do the other? No.
And I had a weird feeling about that, but I never really thought about it.
Right. That's when you've gotten to where you're supposed to be. And then they'll be saying, well, this is not ideal. We're going to have to get to work on this because these are the things you said you would do and you haven't done them. Maybe did we give you too much responsibility? Do we need something a little bit easier? Do we need to ratchet it down a little bit? And then what's going to come next is some kind of planning for your next life. Because most of us, and this is true for, we think, 99.9999999% of humanity, and some quite shockingly high percent of all other life also.
That's true.
We've done virtually nothing that we said we would do in our pre-birth planning, in our sacred vows to Spirit. When we promised divine presences we would do these things, almost none of them are getting done.
Oh no.
I know that's not the answer that you want to hear.
I know, I'm
sorry about that, but that is the truth.
It's true.
Does this answer the question?
And the second part of Brendan's question is, will we get to stay as long as we'd like to once we reach God?
Who wants to answer this question? One of those divine presences is talking and he's saying, friend, you've got to understand that you need to work with the mentoring of your guardian angels for a lot longer. When we are incarnating on planet Earth as a human, this isn't going to be our last life.
Oh, that's definitely
we're way, 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 way far away from that. So you're going to have to be working with your guardian angel for many more lifetimes,
That's
working
true.
to become a better person and 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 become a better person. And different people take different lengths of time between their lives.
That's true.
So that part is really between you and your angelic guidance system.
That's true.
But what we find is that the more evolved souls get, the more they want to come back and be of service.
That's true.
And they don't want to be sitting there eating bonbons when the horrors are happening now.
That's true.
They want to come back right away.
Oh, yeah.
And try to do something to prevent the horrors from occurring. And that's what we find happens.
That's true.
That by the time you get to be talking to someone other than your own personal guardian angel, you're not wanting to sit on the shelf. You're having really a lot of stress about what's happening, and you want to get right back in the game and do something to stop it.
Oh, yeah.
Does this answer your question?